Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Nathan's 3D Factory. In this episode, I'm going to be making a simple low poly volcano. So to start off, I have this print bed that I made, and then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to do Shift A, and I'm going to add a cylinder. Now, I've been doing this little testing right here. I got 16 vertices. I want to keep it low poly, like I say. And then I'm doing a radius of 15.9. So that's going to be 1¼ inches times 25.4, but this is going to be a radius. So, and the depth, I did the same thing where I calculated so that I would have something in inches. Alright, so now that we have that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go into edit mode by pressing tab, and then I'm going to put the cursor on the bottom. I want to get into face select mode, so I'm going to press 3 on my numbers, Shift S, cursor to selected. Now, next thing I want to do is I want to tab out of edit mode, and then you'll see in my view, I have the 3D cursor location. I want this to be 5 millimeters thick right here at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this negative 25.4, and I'm going to change it to negative 30.4. Now, that puts it exactly 5 millimeters below my object. And now I'm going to set origin to 3D cursor. And then I'm going to press Alt-G to clear the location of this, alright? So now I've got my origin right here at the bottom. And then I'm going to press Shift-C to recenter the cursor. There we go. And then, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a solidify modifier. Solidify. Okay. Now, I want to have this as a 5 millimeter thickness. And I want the offset not to go to -1 because that'll get it inside the model. But I want this to be +1. Then you'll notice that at the bottom that it's not quite getting there, right? That's because we need to enable even thickness. And once we get there, we have our object, so it's meeting at the bottom there. So one thing about solidify is that you're not going to get it perfect all the time here. So I can always change that in a moment. But one thing that I do want to do is that I want to get Z wireframe. Now this one I want to do X faces. Okay. And now I have this, so this is roughly 5 millimeters thick here. So last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to tab out. Okay. And now I'm going to apply this modifier. Alright. Next thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to tab into there. So now I have all of my faces applied with that modifier. Okay, so I want this to go all the way down to the actual print bed. G, Z. I'm going to press Control here because I didn't have my magnet turned on. Okay. So now I have that so it is stuck right to the print bed. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into edge select mode. I'm going to press Alt and click on one of the edges, and that brings up the entire edge loop. Now I'm going to scale this out, and then as you can see here, we have a nice little volcano object, but it's just a cone. It's not that fun. Don't you agree? So I'm going to press Control R to do my edge loop cut. And once I have my spot, I'm going to scale in. I'm going to scale that in a little bit. And then I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to scale in. Do the same thing right here. Okay. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate on the Z-axis by doing RZ. And then I'm going to rotate it ever so slightly. I want to go back into solid now. So now you can see that we have that twisted a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing by doing Alt-R, RZ. And it doesn't have to be perfect by any means. And in fact, the less perfect it is, the better. All I really want is to have the top and the bottom being flat, right? Control R. All right, RZ. I'm going to scale that out a little bit. And then I'm going to pull it down, GZ. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to add a little bit of random to this so that we have something so it just kind of looks like a craggy volcano, right? So I'm going to go 1 for vertex mode. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to circle paint select, right? So I'm going to do C to do that. And then I'm going to grab these by going up here a little bit. Okay. And I'll do the same thing, paint select. I'm just going and randomizing a little bit. Okay. And then I can go around this, do the same thing. G. Okay. There we go. And so, like I say, this is like where we just get a little bit random. And we do that. I can do the same thing on this other one right here. G. Okay. All right. So, last little thing right here. Grab that. Okay. And then we're going to get out of there. And then we have a nice little low poly volcano right here. Okay. So then I'm going to save this. And I've already done that, like where I've saved it. But I'm also going to export to STL. All right, we have volcano.stl, and I want selection only. So once I do that, then I got that exported, and then I will see you in the slicer software. Now we're in the slicer, and now what we're going to do is that we are going to open our file, go into that. Studio, Nathan's 3D Factory, Volcano. Okay, and now we're going to put this in. So now we have our volcano object, and we're going to slice. Okay, so it says we have 5 hours and 0 minutes that we're going to do this. Cost of $1.22. So here we go. All right, so now we have this sliced, and we're going to save to disk. There we go. So, let's see. On that same place, we have our Dropbox. All right, right there. All right, so Volcano. There we go. And we're going to save that. So that one I have set for my Creality Ender3 Pro. And I'm going to use the standard settings on this. So this is going to be our, this shows like red PLA. A lot of these PLAs are pretty interchangeable, but you want to make sure that you follow the manufacturer's recommendations for when you do your temperature and everything. So in another video, I'll kind of go through like temperature settings and things like that, and what I've found works for certain filaments. So anyway, now we're going to get into the 3D printing time lapse, and then I'll show you the finished product at the end of it.
Hey, alright, here it is. A nice final product. The 3D printed Volcano. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure that you like, you subscribe, and you comment on this. And I hope to see from you more. And thank you for watching again. Bye.